Hello and welcome to the OpenStack Now podcast. This is episode 4 and we are back. I am Nick Chase and we are here with my co-host John Jainschigg and our special guest for the day, Tesora founder and CTO Amrith Kumar. Hello, Amrith.
Hello. Hi, John. Hi, Nicholas.
Hey, good to see you. So what we're here to talk about today is Tesora, which does database as a service and all of the aspects of that. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what Tesora does and about database as a service.
Cool. Thanks a lot for arranging this, Nick and John.
Welcome.
My name is Amrith. I'm one of the founders and the CTO of Tesora. We're located here in wonderful Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we have a development team up in Toronto. And we are the Trove company. For those of you who are not familiar with Trove, Trove is the OpenStack database as a service project. We are one of the lead contributors to the project. We've been participating in Trove for a little over coming up on 2 years now. We've contributed a lot of code to features like replication and monitoring and things like that. Lots of documentation to Horizon, the UI. We're basically the Trove company. I'm one of the developers in the company as well. I'm an active technical contributor to the project. I'm on the Trove core team. And so we do Trove.
Okay. So now Trove, of course, is the OpenStack database as a service project.
Correct.
Meaning that it allows people to provision databases on demand, essentially.
And a lot more, but yeah. So let me tell you maybe what Trove is. So there was a time when the way in which people manage databases was, first of all, you go and acquire a bunch of hardware and you go buy some software. You spend a lot of time installing one on top of the other, and you get a database. And that's not a very scalable way of doing things. The IT organization typically owned that entire process, and therefore they needed to be experts end-to-end in this whole process, which meant that they needed to standardize on a couple of databases, which was great when there were only a couple of databases around. But now we have very specialized databases for special things, like object databases for one thing, key value stores for another. There's a bunch of databases in the same model which worked 20 years ago for relational databases doesn't work anymore. So Trove and database as a service is much more than just the provisioning you touched on. It is a mechanism to manage the provisioning, which is an important part of database as a service, but also simplify the management of databases through their entire life cycle. So provisioning a database, very important thing. It's complex to install a database. You want to get it right. Unfortunately, if you do it over and over and over again, you're going to miss one thing, just one. And you'll realize that 3 o'clock in the morning, several days later, when your pager goes off. Now, you want repeatability in installation. Yes, Trove does that. But it also has to do one other important thing, which is it needs to give an IT organization expertise in a large number of databases, because internal consumers want many databases. Within an application sometimes, we call this polyglot persistence, you have some data stored in a relational database, some data stored in a NoSQL database. You need to have best practices for all of these, and Trove, or database as a service, gives an IT organization the ability to offer their internal customers many databases and best practices on all of them.
So that actually sounds like an awfully good benefit to the whole database as a service thing. So how did you get involved in all this?
So maybe 5 years ago, when I started the company, Ken Rugg and I, it was our hypothesis that fundamentally people were going to change the way in which they consume databases. Now, we were projecting on a trend which was something Amazon had already done. If you think about it in the way back before that, the only way in which a internal customer within an organization could get any compute resource was to go to IT. Because what else would you do? Would you go buy hardware, put it under your desk? Not a lot of people could do that. But Amazon came along and said, well, you know what? You got a credit card in your pocket. swipe it and you can get yourself a machine in 5 minutes. And that was revolutionary from the internal customer's perspective, where they were chafing at the bit and saying, I can't wait for IT for 3 months to give me a server. But you know what? These guys out in Seattle figured out that if I swipe my credit card, I can get one in 15 minutes. Now, our hypothesis was fundamentally people were going to do the same thing with databases. And databases have traditionally been the thing in your data center with the most power-hungry, costly, sophisticated hardware. That's where you store your data. So that's the thing on which you spend the most of your IT budget. And our hypothesis was people who are doing this now with, inexpensive storage and with inexpensive compute are going to move an application to the cloud. They need databases in the same form factor. So it was always our hypothesis that database as a service is something which is going to change the way in which IT uses databases. We needed to find the best vehicle to deliver database as a service. We spent a couple of years building technologies in that space, and about 2 years ago, we brought much of that expertise and our team over to the OpenStack camp, and we've been doing Trove ever since. So when Trove came out in Icehouse, we had a very, very small contribution to that project. But in the subsequent releases, Juno and Kilo, we've contributed about 1/2 of the code which came out in each of those releases.
Okay. And you yourself have been contributing a lot of that code, which I find to be interesting because, you're the founder, you're the co-founder, you're the CTO, and yet you're right there in the weeds. And my first thought was, is it just this guy? But actually I went back and no, you have, a fairly sizable group of people contributing. Why are you personally in the weeds there?
So the project itself is moving very quickly. And let me point out, I'm not, quote, the only person in the weeds.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's a pretty sizable group.
It's not just me and a bunch of developers. So Doug Shelley, who's our head of R&D, he's got, I don't know, probably 20 years of experience with databases. He's an active technical contributor too. And many of our developers have got, a decade and a half of experience in databases. We're all active technical contributors. But to your point, why am I still contributing to it? The project itself is evolving so quickly, and there's so much to do. The best way to get, ahead with the project and make the project successful is if everybody who is using the project contributes to it. So I'm contributing to the project. I'm also Doug and I are also writing the book on Trove. The book is going to be published shortly. So we want database as a service and Trove to be successful, and there is a lot to do. We contributed all the code to do replication in Juno. We've contributed upgrades to that in Kilo. In Liberty, we're working on a whole bunch of new and interesting things. And we've got a roadmap out to the M release as well. So there's a lot of work to do. And I love to code, so I'm happy to do that.
John, what do you think?
What is the experience of using Trove now? For an OpenStack user who chooses to do so. I am not directly familiar with Trove, yet as something that I see and work with in Horizon. How does it differ from a system that permits rapid deployment of databases, like, for example, Murano?
Mm-hmm. So how does it? So Murano is primarily focused on provisioning, which is an aspect of what Trove does. So let me maybe walk you through a couple of workflows of what people could do with Trove. I have an application which needs a MySQL database. MySQL is the predominant database which is being used with Trove at this point. Trove supports MySQL, both the ones from Oracle, the one from MariaDB, and the one from Percona. So I need a database, and I say, I'm doing development. I'd like a database. On Horizon, it's 3 clicks of the mouse. On the command line, it's Trove create, and poof, you're off to the races. A couple of seconds later, you have a Nova instance with MySQL up and running, and now you can just deploy your application against it. So I'm doing development. Cool, I got a little database. I tested with it. I also want a MongoDB instance. No problem. Trove create MongoDB. off to the races. You get one of those. Again, through Horizon, it's a couple of clicks of the key, of the mouse, and you're there. And after about, 3 days, I figured out my application needs a little bit more testing, exercising. Maybe I want to take it into QA. I want to see how it would work in a replicated environment. Okay, now I can create a replicated pair of databases, or if I'm using Mongo, I could say, create me a Mongo cluster.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are deployment provisioning kinds of things. Okay, so now I have an application which is up and running. I got a bunch of Nova instances. I've got a load balancer. I got a couple of databases. There's replication going on. I want to do a backup. On Horizon, it's one click of your mouse. It'll take a backup for you. The backup is streamed straight to Swift. It's encrypted. It's compressed. It's there. Tomorrow you want to launch another database from that backup. Horizon, 3 clicks of your mouse and you're up and running. Tomorrow you want to do some additional things to your database. All of these things are automations which are built into Trove. So here's a really powerful thing you can do with Trove. I've deployed 100 MySQL databases in my private cloud. I have 50 Cassandra instances. I've got a dozen MongoDB instances. And someone comes along and says, across the board for all 100 MySQL instances, we need to make this one configuration change. Trove has a mechanism called configuration groups where you say, okay, create a configuration group which has that one change and attach that to all the 100 instances. In one fell swoop, you've applied that change to all 100 instances. Just think about it from an IT operator's perspective where you say, the old way of doing it would be bring out a long sheet of paper, write down all the instances, divide up among a half dozen people and say, you get all of the ones ending with 1, you get all of the ones ending in 2, and so on, and you go do this manually. Or you go make something in Puppet to do it. But all of those things are automated for you in Trove in such a way that you can do all of this very straightforward. Now, I've said a lot of things which Trove can do, but here's the icing on the cake. There's one common API to do a backup, no matter whether it's Mongo or MySQL. There's one API to create a database, no matter whether it's Mongo or Cassandra or MySQL or Couch or Redis or Vertica or DB2.
So
Those are all supported databases.
There's a collapse of skill sets required.
Exactly. So you think about the old way in which IT organizations used to work. The IT organization had to be the expert on the database. Therefore, you ended up with this thing called, well, it's the corporate standard. You can have any database as long as it's Oracle.
Right.
Well, so unfortunately, life doesn't work that way anymore. There's organizations where you need a Mongo instance, you need a Cassandra instance, you need Redis for something, and you need MySQL. No, by the way, it has to be MySQL version 5.6 because you do have to have GTID-based replication. Your IT organization does not have to be an expert in all of those things because somebody at eBay who's an expert on Mongo because they deploy Mongo in spades wrote the code for Mongo support in Trove. If you were to use that code, guess what? You got all the expertise of the dudes at eBay who contributed this code in the code you're using. Our team has a lot of experience with relational databases and some NoSQL databases. We contributed the code for all of replication along with our friends at HP, along with our friends at Percona. We know a lot about replication. You need to know nothing about how replication works because you get all that code. So the benefit to you is in a single API, you can manage a whole bunch of different databases. And now your IT organization has automatically achieved expertise in, let me give you the list again, MySQL, Percona, MariaDB, Postgres, DB2, Vertica, and let's talk NoSQL databases, Mongo, Cassandra, Couch, Redis, Couchbase. All because you use Trove.
And these are, just to be clear, these are the actual databases that are running on the system under a control envelope that's provided by Trove. These are not service approximations or simulations, or virtual API level provisioned things. They're the real databases.
Very good question. Trove does not get into the data aspect at all. Trove is on the management plane. When Trove provisions MySQL version 5.6, we are provisioning real MySQL 5.6. I'll give you an example. So Tesora, we extended Trove, we support Oracle. When we provision Oracle, you're provisioning real Oracle, 11G or 12C. When DB2, when IBM contributed the code for DB2 Express, the DB2 which you launch is real DB2 Express, which it will download from DB2 from IBM's website. So it's not a service approximation. It is the real database.
That sounds great. I can definitely see why one would choose to use, this now, as opposed to, what sounds initially equally, facile, a Murano deployment, because then once you've deployed it, you have to manage it.
Correct. You end up with the managing, and also you end up with the rest of the care and feeding of a database. Because one of the things about databases is that once you put data in there, it's going to be around there for a long time. Your application is going to be growing over time and is going to accumulate data over time. You need to make sure you don't lose any data. So there's a management over a life cycle of this database, all of which is taken for you by Trove.
Can you, I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
No, not at all.
Can you manage an existing database with Trove? So can you provision with Murano and then manage with Trove?
Currently, no. I don't know about, so I know for sure provision with Murano, operate with Trove is kind of why would you do that kind of thing? Because you can provision with Trove just fine. The one thing which we are trying to look at is, in the case especially of things like Oracle, you go into an enterprise which wants to use our version of Trove with Oracle. One of the things which we're asked from time to time is, we really love this thing. We're provisioning Oracle instances for testing and development. This is great. We got this big honking box in the corner which has Oracle and it's already got applications against it. I'd love to manage it through Trove.
Right.
Can you somehow make it appear through Trove? We're doing that now in some cases. For example, with Oracle 12c, multi-tenant database. You have an existing Oracle 12c deployment out there. We have extensions to Trove which will allow you to provision and operate that through Trove. Over time, we're going to continue to evolve that, so it is not that part of your infrastructure is pre-Trove and this part of your infrastructure is Trove. We're going to try and slowly start saying, install Trove, start using it, and then we will bring the rest of your infrastructure into the OpenStack umbrella. We're not there yet, but that is definitely an important direction.
Great. So that's on the way. Okay. Yeah. Because I was thinking about a situation where, Trove provisions the databases and does it very well. On the other hand, Murano enables you to provision an entire environment that may have as part of it a database. That would also be well managed with Trove. So that's good. It seems like the two parts of OpenStack are kind of coming together.
Conceptually, absolutely. You should be able to make Murano provision using Trove the database of a complex application stack.
And Murano does tend to, use other pieces where possible. So, well, that's good. So I know we're running short of time, but tell us about Trove Day.
Oh, okay. So last year, around August, we did here in Cambridge, where all of us are, a day-long event called Trove Day, where we got people who were interested in database as a service to come out, and we got a bunch of people who had operated Trove, who were running Trove in production, to come out and talk about their experience. And that was wonderful. In the middle of summer, we got a couple of hundred people, and a lot of people said, this is a great event. We'd love to have one on the West Coast. So this year, August 25th, we're doing Trove Day in California. It's at the Club Auto Sports in San Jose. Wonderful venue if you've never been there. If you're into fancy cars, they've got great stuff there as well. But it's a day-long event, and basically you're going to get to hear from people who are contributing to Trove, people who are using Trove in production, people who are operating Trove in production, and people whose applications have been deployed against Trove. So we're going to have a whole bunch of panel discussions and presentations. There's going to be a track which is going to focus on technical stuff, and there's going to be a bunch of panels which are on the business side of it. What are the benefits of operating Trove? What's the benefits of database as service and things like that? So basically, it's a day-long event focused on Trove, targeted at people who are either interested in databases as a service or are already using OpenStack and want to migrate their applications with databases into the umbrella.
Excellent. And where do people go for more information?
Go to www.tesora.com. You'll find links to Trove Day. You can, while you're there, you can, if you want to check it out, you can see all the videos from last year's Trove Day. There's videos of presentations, panel discussions on databases, on the business of database as service. You can register there. The event is free, by the way, but it's selling out really fast. August 25th, Club Auto Sports in San Jose. While you're on our site, you can also register for Short Stack, which is our weekly newsletter about OpenStack and Trove. Comes out just in time for you to have pancakes and maple syrup, which makes a lot of people kind of hungry. And you'll see a little picture of pancakes and maple syrup on them.
And I envy you that, because I've never gotten an issue of OpenStack Now out in the morning. Just never happens. Excellent. And by the way, anyone who is considering, if you're coming out for OpenStack Silicon Valley, that is the day right after Trove Day. So consider coming out a day earlier and heading over to Trove Day. OpenStack Silicon Valley in Mountain View at the Computer Science Museum, Trove Day in San Jose. Not that far away, at least for me. I'm across the country, so to me, it's in California. It must be close by. At any rate, so I want to, John, did you have any other questions?
Nope, I'm done.
All right, so I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our guest, Amrith Kumar from Tesora, which I've been mispronouncing. Thank you for correcting me on that. It is, in fact, Tesora. And again, if you want to subscribe to OpenStack Now, that would be subscribe.openstacknow.com, and join us next week. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, John. Thanks.